Welcome, and thank you all for turning out on the most wonderful, wettest Monday we probably will experience in months, but we've got a great program, and we're happy that all of you joined us. My name is Pat Mulqueeny, and I'm president of the Eden Prairie Chamber of Commerce, and it is great to gather for our beer luncheon, and of course, beer doesn't mean we're having beer today, at least not officially. But B.E.E.R stands for the Bloomington, Eden Prairie, Edina, and Richfield Chambers of Commerce, and Eden Prairie, if I didn't say Eden Prairie. And of course, we bring these groups together because business knows no boundaries. We want to have all of you meet someone new today, so if you're seated next to people you know and you haven't met anybody new, please do so before you leave today. We'll have some time for milling about afterwards. We'd like to hold the multi-chamber events 4 times a year. We have some other additional opportunities we're working on that we'll announce later on. But it is great to see everybody today. I know we had a little over 70 people sign up to attend. Special thank yous go out to Patrick's Bakery and Cafe. Angie has told me that their catering manager, Tracy Dutcher, has been great to work with and great food today. I know some of you were really staying closer to the dessert table, so good for you. And I know also that Angie highly recommends them and has used them before. So also a thank you to Bachman's, and I know Dale's not in here, but I tried to wear a purple tie. I know it doesn't match exactly to the Bachman's purple, but that's what I'm going with today. And of course our sponsors. I want to thank all of our sponsors. If you have not had a chance to visit their tables, please do so. We so greatly appreciate their support. They are RBCU, RB Honda, Excel Energy, Promotion Select, and Centerpoint Energy. Let's be sure to give them a round of applause. And speaking of applause, let's welcome the Richfield Chamber of Commerce President, Angie Schaefbauer.
Everybody, thanks for coming today. This is a very special occasion, I think, because I don't know if anybody else in the room can say they've actually met an Olympic athlete before. So this is very exciting. Our Richfield resident, I was going to say, like, long time, but that'd be a lie. So, we'll go with resident. And we're just really excited to have you here today, Jessica. I'm going to read her bio so I don't miss anything. So Jessica was born in Anchorage, Alaska, and moved to Minnesota to attend Lake Superior College in Duluth, and studied physical therapy and pursued her curling career. She currently works at Twin Cities Orthopedics in Edina. The 2014 Sochi Olympics was Jessica's second Olympic experience. In 2006, Torino was her first. Curling is a Schultz family affair. She took up the sport 16 years ago in her hometown of Anchorage, where her father, Marty, volunteers to maintain the ice at a curling club. In addition to local outlets in Minnesota and her home state, Jessica has made appearances on the Today Show, where she and men's curler Jared Zezel debuted the uniforms for Team USA that they wore during the opening ceremonies. And she's also been on the weight loss competition show, The Biggest Loser, obviously not because she needs it, where she and her teammates help with a challenge involving their sport. Jessica has recently launched her own t-shirt line, which she will talk about. We're trying to display them so well. And she will the proceeds of those are going to actively support her Olympic funding, which she can talk about later. So when you get a minute after the speech and everything today, please visit her promotional table to learn more about that if you haven't already done so. So with that, I welcome Jessica Schultz.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you all for being here today. It's definitely an honor to speak in front of all these great business professionals. I'm kind of new to the public speaking era, so please bear with me as we work through this. But I want to give a special thank you to Angie for inviting me here and for kind of kicking me in the butt and getting me off the couch after I got back from Sochi.
You're welcome.
Getting me back into the real world. Like Angie said, I was born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska.
Do you want me, or are you going to do it?
I can do it.
Okay.
But when I graduated, I had no idea what I wanted to do and what I wanted to get out of life. All I knew is that I wanted to curl. And to do that, I moved to Duluth, Minnesota. I've never been to Minnesota before. Had no idea what the weather was like up there. And I had no plan of action. So imagine my parents' surprise when I decided when I was 18 that I was going to move with no financial support or any goal for college or anything. But 10 years, well, actually 11 years now, 2 Olympics, 4 World Championships. I'm here. I'm a Richfield resident, loving life. I live in Edina, or I work in Edina, like Angie said, and everything has been peachy keen. So it's been great. The one thing I've learned throughout my experience is that if you truly believe in something, everything else will fall into place. So you want to just focus on your goals and really aspire to do what you dream, what you believe in. So with that, we're going to move on to Sochi. This is our view that we got to see every day of the Olympics. All right, this is the iceberg arena here. That it was where they did short track and figure skating. And this is the Caucasus Mountains behind. Here we were chartered in to Sochi from Munich. All the athletes were put onto a plane. We had absolutely no rules. You sit wherever you wanted. Bags could go anywhere. You didn't have to put them overhead. You had bags piled high next to you. Like, wow, this is great. You get all the peanuts you want. It's wonderful. Here is my view flying in. I was able to catch this picture right here. Notice I'm a little nervous. I'm actually more nervous to speak in front of you guys than I am playing in front of millions of people. But anyways. All right, so this was our housing unit right here. This area was the village, and this up here was part of the village. Where we ate was up here in our commons area, and they had a recreational area as well. This path and this little lake, this was the bird sanctuary that they put in for us, and we were able to ride around on bikes, golf carts, and bus systems within the village. So from here, we would walk every day this way, and this is the Olympic Park area here. So we had about a 15-minute walk to our venue at the Ice Cube. This one was the Adler Arena where long track took place. This is the Bolshoi where women's and men's hockey took place. This was their practice arena, and then the Fish Arena is where opening and closing ceremonies were. In 2005, there was nothing here. This place was flat. There was no buildings at all. So this was all built up in the last few years. The torch is right here in the middle, in the center, and you could see that from anywhere within the village or walking around. So yeah, it was pretty amazing. View from our room in the village. Pretty rough. You wake up to the sunrise, sunset, you have dolphins jumping, and it was 60 degrees. We pretty much woke up and asked ourselves daily, are we really at the Winter Olympics? This is definitely a dream. Here's our team. After processing, we got all of our free stuff. Team USA. And here we are going through processing. So it is crazy. They put us in this area. It's like a big high school gymnasium, and you go around with a shopping cart, and they put stuff in your cart in your size. Nike, Ralph Lauren. You get pretty amazing rings that you can see up close and personal in a little bit. So you go. They tell us when you go, you just bring your underwear and socks, and then they'll take care of the rest for a month. So you get a month's worth of clothes and bags and suitcases and shoes, anything you can imagine. Here's both men's and women's teams, so 10 men's, 10 women's, and our staff that went along with us. We had massage therapists, trainers, and a coaching staff. Going through opening ceremonies, I'm sure everybody's seen the nice sweaters. They are 100% made in the United States. They actually grew the lamb, or they harvested the wool from the lambs in Oregon, and then they made the sweaters that way. So Ralph Lauren really did it right. Social media was a big thing over there, so we were hashtagging social media, social selfies. And here we are walking into the Fish Arena. you can't really see, but there's lines of people and athletes of all different countries are lined up out there. And we're probably lined up there for about 2 to 3 hours before we actually walk into the games. In the meantime, they feed us bagged lunches. We get sandwiches and apples, and we get to hang out with the hare, which is one of the mascots. And then obviously Minnesota was well represented with the curling team on both men's and women's side. All right, this is walking into the Olympic Games, or walking into opening ceremonies. It literally takes my breath away, even just thinking about it now. The energy was astounding. The crowd was chanting USA, and it's in that moment that we realized we're not just here with the 5 of us anymore. We're not just part of our own little bubble circle. We've turned into this team of 230 people and a nation that's there, that's cheering us on, supporting us through our goals and through our mission while we're there. So it's really hard to put into words what that emotion feels like, but it's one that I will never forget, and nothing can compare to that. Here we are. We did a lot of media events, press conferences, a little smaller scale than what LeBron James would be going through, but it was pretty neat to be there, and probably a group about this size asking you questions about the sport and about politics and all that exciting stuff that you've seen on the TV. We had post-game scrums where it was mandatory, win or lose. You had to walk through pretty much straight off the ice. You had no time to go up and see your family or anything, and go through a scrum of reporters and cameras. We had live interviews throughout the event that would be live here, but not there, so a good 16-hour difference in trying to figure that out with the media. And then also learn to curl and teaching sponsors how to curl after the event. Some of you might recognize this guy, Dave Schwartz. He's the sports broadcaster for KARE 11. So he's a pretty fun guy to hang out with. A little Sochi selfie. This is hard to read, but the media blitz, this is inside the arena. Inside here, there's over 42 cameras that were on us each game. So there's people walking up and down these aisles. There was cameras that came down over top of us, and they would even walk along with us as we were throwing our rock. We had the highest ratings on NBC Sports Network. The USA Curling website reached over 360 viewers in a week. Our team Facebook account went from 500 to 3,000 likes in a week. My personal Twitter account went from 800 to 4,200 followers. So just that was mind-blowing enough just to know that that's how many people we're touching in this moment. NBC even continued to have strong ratings even when we were out of contention for the medals. So that's pretty neat for the sport of curling, because when I started in '98 and even in the 2006 games, nobody had any idea what curling was. So to know that this is touching and getting to that many people, and this many people are interested in the sport, is pretty unbelievable. And that I can talk to you guys and you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the curling. So that's pretty neat. This is the Ice Cube Arena. This is our venue from the front side. There was a security reach here that fans had to go through with their credentials. In order to get into the Olympic Park, you had to have your credentials with you and passes at all times. If you didn't have it with you, you were absolutely not getting in. Dave Schwartz learned that the hard way because he lost his, and so we were supposed to be meeting for a live interview right here, and since he didn't have his, I stood around waiting for 45 minutes before someone found me and said he lost it. They wouldn't even let him in or blink an eye at him to come into the venue. So pretty interesting. Let's see. So this, playing for our country, it's a huge honor to be out there, and our goal is just to be a positive role model as we can for our community and for people out there. So regardless, I'll get probably more into it. So we working together as a team, sticking together through the hard times. I think that's a very important aspect of teamwork, and in this moment, just really, it's easy to fall away from your team when you're going through tough times, so it's really important just to bring it all back together. And so after between ends, after 5 ends, you get to meet with your teammates and have a little kind of get together and rebuttal, like, okay, the game's not going our way, how are we going to change it around and that. So, also with the teamwork comes communication. The arena was amazing. It was extremely loud though, so fans were cheering, and we could hardly hear each other. I could be standing right next to my teammate here, and we wouldn't know what each other were saying. You just see mouths moving. So obviously, communication is very important in all aspects of life, not just in sports, but also in business and life. So just something to think about. Here's just some more game shots. Looking up here, this is more media. So we had 2 rows of media benches up here, and then up higher was where NBC was sitting. This row down here is all coaches. And you can kind of see there's a camera guy there, there's a camera boom there, some guys over here with cameras. Our ultimate goal going into our training 3 or 4 years ago for this event was to medal. It wasn't to get through to the trials and yay, we're going on for this Olympic experience. We wanted to medal when we got there. So to get there, we had to set stepping stones, our little goals, to get us to that point. I think, sorry. I think that's important also in all aspects of life, just to have a main goal up top and then just having little goals on how you're going to reach that adventure. So we focused on our goal, but once the medal was unattainable for us, we had to kind of switch our mindset and how we were going to continue, because after 5 games, we were out. We knew there was no way of medaling, but we had 4 more games that we had to go out there and play. So what our goal then turned out to be was just to stay positive and give it our best, and just to continue to go out there with a smile on our face and really enjoy the moment that's been given to us. Even though at some points we were falling apart on the inside. So that brings us to frustration. I don't normally show a lot of emotion when I'm out on the ice, but I remember exactly what the shot was when they caught this picture, and the shot literally was perfect until the very last second when it just kind of jumped a little further than what we were expecting. So throughout the week, I think this kind of sums up our competition side of the Olympic Games for us. We had a lot of frustration, and in curling terms, it means we were on the wrong side of the inch. And this happens in curling, kind of like you can relate it to golf. One week you could be winning a Masters, and the next day you're crawling out of bunkers and out of the trees. So having this much frustration and heartbreak, I think it's very important how you overcome it and how you look at it. You want to take this moment and use this challenge to define who you're going to be and what you're going to look at. So the choice is definitely yours in how you try to overcome this heartbreak and what you're going to do to make it better and what you're going to learn from it. So our team, we chose to persevere and just really continue to stay positive and work together. We appreciate the moments that we have made and really focus on what we did to get to this moment. Leading up the last couple of years, we had an amazing journey. We won a lot of games. We won the Olympic trials. And to know that we worked so hard to be a part of this experience and just to sit and let it go and be sad the rest of the time would be a waste. So we had a lot of fun. And we got to go out and enjoy the village and enjoy some aspects of the games that maybe others weren't able to do. So what I ask for you is that when you are set into or put into a place where there's frustration and heartbreak, how did you overcome it, and what did you do? What did you do to learn from it, and what did you take away? Is your response usually favorable, or is it effective? And what are you going to do to change it in the future if you overcome an obstacle? So enough about that. I'm going to go into food, because I can talk about food. Does anybody want some crab leis? Because crab flavored Lay's, they're pretty much as they sound, really gross. But the food there, actually, we were able to get out and really enjoy the local establishments, and the food was delicious. Unfortunately, you didn't really know exactly what you were getting. You were either getting meat with vegetables, meat in a pot, meat with cheese, meat on a stick, or meat on a bone. So you were getting some sort of meat, and it was good, so you didn't ask any questions. The village food was great. They had a lot of varieties from different countries that you can choose from. It was funny because at the beginning of the week, everybody was trying to eat healthy, and there is a McDonald's in there, but you'd order the salad. But towards the end of the week, it seemed like the line for the McFlurries kept getting longer and longer and longer. And I tend to go towards the bottomless Nutella and peanut butter with the crepes, so that was my guilty pleasure during that week. Let's see, here's just having some fun around the village. They had bikes available for us, BMW sponsored bikes that they donated to the Russian kids when we were done. They also had golf carts that the volunteers would pick us up in and drive us around if we wanted, so it was kind of fun. Pin trading is huge over there, or during the Olympic Games. You'll see people just completely covered head to toe with pens. If you leave home without your pens, it's funny the looks you get from the people who want to trade with you, and you're like, I'm sorry, I have no pens on me, but they give you dirty looks. And then you can also use them for bribery. If you can't get into a place, you just be like, I have a pen, can I come in? And then all of a sudden they're letting you in, and you're getting into places that you never would have thought. So it's a big thing over there. Here we are just hanging out. The USA House is kind of an exclusive area with free food and beverage for the athletes. Sometimes when you're in there, you're going to run into some pretty cool people. Vernon Davis is actually the honorary team captain for curling. So he's a huge curling fan. He's a big advocate for it, and he's been starting it up with the kids in San Francisco. So it's pretty neat to see and hear his enthusiasm about it. This is Bonnie Blair. She's a 5-time gold medalist, speed skater. And this guy is David Backus, plays for St. Louis Blues. And actually him and I and his wife are running Athletes for Animals that they started up here just recently. So just raising awareness for the animals and animal adoption. So he's been a great person, and he's going to be around hanging up. He hangs out in Blaine during the summer months, so we're going to be putting an event together. I'm going to keep open for that, open ears. P&G House, Procter & Gamble, they're a major sponsor for the Olympic Games. So Gillette, CoverGirl, pretty much anything you could ever imagine. They are wonderful for our moms. They sponsor the Thank You Mom program. And they hand out monetary gifts to your parents. And then every time my mom came into the P&G house, she ended up with something new, like a new camera or a new DVD player. It was pretty neat. This is my family. I had a lot of family support that came out to the games with us. Actually, we had one day to go up into the mountains, and this is Nordic Combined, so you can see the ski jumping tracks behind us. If you look off into this area, it's all brown. There was no snow. So it's hard to have an Olympic Games without snow. But I think on TV they had white tarps that they would put up for the cameras. Yeah, and then the tracks, they had piping systems underneath to keep the snow cold so it didn't melt. This down here, this is an example of riding on the bus. It was kind of hilarious how they packed people into the bus systems. We were going to my parents' hotel, and it was obviously outside of the Olympic Park. And I'm sitting on my brother's lap because there's no room for anybody else to get in. The one bus before us that we were watching, one guy was trying to get on the bus, so there was people pulling him into the bus while someone else was standing behind him, kicking him, and trying to shut the door to get him in. So yeah, that was that. We did get to experience a little bit of Russian culture. This is the male wedding attire for traditional male wedding attire. The female version wasn't available. This is one of my favorite meat in the pot restaurants. I have no idea what that sign says. This lady came and just grabbed my dad and tried to start dancing with him. So that kind of gives you an example. They're great people, and it was really fun to kind of reach out and get to know them. If you notice in these pictures, these girls aren't smiling, and it's common culture for the Russians not to smile, and that is mostly because they believe it's impolite to greet somebody that they don't know. If you're smiling at somebody, then you either recognize them or you may be considered ignorant or like above them. So, and I didn't learn that until afterwards, because here we're trying to get them to smile and have a good time, and I have no idea what's going on. But yeah, so it was pretty neat to see. And I think that might be shifting a little bit, because we got to see a lot of smiles out of the volunteers, and they definitely made our experience that much more better, much more involved. So here's a couple guys just goofing around. And then this is Elena. She was our team volunteer that kind of made sure we were going where we needed to go at times, and that we had everything that we needed. Here, it's amazing, going back to what I was talking about at opening ceremonies, is that we're no longer just our team of 5 that we're cheering. We're here to also support all of our other teammates, our U.S. athletes. So we were able to get to the men's hockey game, and we got to some short track and some long track to help kind of cheer them on. And in the village, we were in the same building with these guys. So the men's hockey team was above us, and then we were on the same level with the women's hockey team, and we had the speed skaters as well, and the figure skaters. So we really got to know them because they had a lounge area. So hanging out with Bacchus and the boys was kind of fun to see them out there. We did get to go to the women's gold medal game. Unfortunately, it was a really tough loss for the girls. They ended up with the silver medal. And then coming into closing ceremonies, I'm kind of going pretty quick. Okay. Just goofing around. Our goal was to, again, just have fun and really enjoy the experience. So there was a lot of times we were jumping around and being silly. And I'm the youngest member on my team, and she's the oldest at 46, so it's kind of fun for us to come together in this moment. Here's some pictures from closing, just to kind of give you an idea of how close we were to the stage. We were probably 5 rows up on the back side of what you were seeing on TV. This is actually an upside-down housing village, and there was people walking around up there on top upside down. It was kind of interesting to see that. I don't know. Yeah, some more pictures. All right, so that's for my Olympic experience. Talking a little bit about Athletes for Animals and what I do with David Bacchus. Again, just raising awareness and just trying to get out and volunteer and become a part of that community. If you have any questions about that, let me know. And then Angie had mentioned something about the t-shirts. So we are not supported by any means. We have a little bit of funding that comes from the Olympic Committee if you're at the level that we are at. Otherwise, it's all of a building block. So we support ourselves through the majority of our training career and getting to this level. Once you are an Olympic athlete, then everything's covered, but up until then, so training costs, travel, and most of our travel is outside of the United States. So it's in Canada, we're staying in hotels and that. So what I do, I came up with a Rock Life brand. And basically, I just want to raise awareness that this is your life and you may only get one that we know of. So you want to give it 100% each time you go out. So when you wake up in the morning, put a smile on your face and just enjoy the life that you've been given. So that's that. So if you want some cool t-shirts, I have hundreds of designs. You can go to athleteoriginals.com. I kind of zoomed through that and got a little nervous, so I apologize. But if you any questions, feel free to ask any questions about the experience that I might not have covered going forward. Yeah?
So for curling, do people have particular positions? Is there certain designees to throw the stone, certain designees to do the sweeping? And how does the sweeping impact the stone? Is it speed and direction or just speed?
That's a good good question. So there's 4 people on the ice at one time. You have your lead, your second, your third, and your skip. And so your lead throws your first 2 set of rocks, second throws the second set, third, and skip throws the last set. And you're alternating with the other team. So if Pat and I were playing on the same team together, Pat would throw first, then I would throw, then Pat would throw, and then I would throw. And it's all strategy. So the lead may be specialized more on playing touch shots, where the second is going to be more of a defensive player, drawing takeouts and hits and bigger hits, where the skip is kind of more of everything. So when you're sweeping, it actually helps to carry the rock further and helps it to stay more straight. There's actually a lot more going. You heard us in our video, we're saying clean, but that's because if you were to shed a hair or an eyelash, that can affect the way the rock is going to go in the trajectory. But we also, if you apply more pressure, depending on how deep the pressure is and how fast you're sweeping, it's going to affect if the rock's going to be carried further along the ice.
So Anchorage, Alaska, I would think that curling is pretty big up there. What made you, or why did you come to Minnesota and wanted to curl?
So I think with Anchorage, it's actually not that big because it's isolated. So for example, I grew up in a 2-sheet curling facility. So if you think of a sheet like a bowling alley, there's only 2 sheets in Anchorage, and there's 300,000 people that live there. But Duluth, or Minnesota, is central, so it's easier to travel throughout the U.S. and to travel into Canada for more affordable prices. And St. Paul, the curling facility, has 8 sheets, and there's curling in St. Paul and Blaine. And Blaine has 6 sheets, so it's pretty prominent in the Minnesota area. I mean, it comes from Scotland originally, so I think when people started migrating this way, it just kind of developed in the smaller towns up on the range. I think almost every range city has a curling facility up there, so it's pretty neat to see. And then what's nice about Minneapolis is it's becoming more prominent in Minneapolis area because it's easier to get to. You can get direct flights into Toronto and into Calgary and Regina and all those places in Canada. So, yeah, good question. Angie?
Can you speak a little bit about your team? I found it interesting what you shared with me about who your team members are, where they're from, how often you play together.
Yeah, so my team, we came together 3 years ago. Erica Brown lives in Toronto in Oakville. She's originally from Madison. Debbie McCormick is from Madison area, and Ann Swisshelm's from Chicago. So what we do is we get together every other weekend or every weekend when you're training for traveling purposes and for competitions. So that's the only time we get to practice together is when we're actually competing in the competition. Otherwise, we might get 1 or 2 practices in as a team before getting into a national championship or into the world events. So it's pretty, because we're just so far spread out. And that's just the way curling is in the United States, and that's why it's more of a challenge because all these other countries are training and traveling together, they're living together, they're kind of one unit where we're kind of spread out throughout the U.S., so trying to make it more central. Way in the back.
So if you're all spread out, how is it that the team is then selected?
It's a self-formed team, so we've actually been playing against each other for years. I've been playing for 16 years, and then with curling, you can curl until you're 50. So it's something you're playing against these guys, and then one day you might be like, hey, I might fit well with Debbie on a team, and then that's how your team is kind of formed.
What's your favorite pin that you collected?
What
was the most sought after one?
The most sought after pin was probably that's a good question. I have a really neat one from the Hawaii Curling Club, so it wasn't even one that was at the games. Otherwise, the ones with the mascots on them, with the Sochi rings and the Sochi Olympics, probably. Way in the back.
I forgot what you called it, a rock or a stone, but I imagine there's a lot more that goes into making and caring for that than just finding something in local trees.
Right. It's definitely different from the rocks that you can find in my backyard right now. But it's 42 pounds of solid granite, and they make the rocks on Elsa Craig, which is an island out of Scotland. So it's a pretty established granite that they use. And they have to be exactly the same. obviously. So they don't weigh different set, you know, there's not one that's gonna be heavier for trying to clear more stones or anything. They're all the same size and shape and weight.
You talked about 4 or 5 different careers. You have the curling career and passion, your family time, that seems important to you.
Yeah.
The career that you set up with the shirts and animals. How do you keep it all? How do you balance it all? I mean, the band of an athletic career is huge.
It is a huge career. It's a lot of dedication. Pretty much trying to be organized has been really helpful in setting a goal each day of what I need to accomplish for each thing. So when I was practicing or getting ready for this speaking event, it's just getting up and be like, okay, I need to think about, you know, what steps I need to do for this presentation that we're going to do. So work, I know I'm working 10 hours a day. From there, I'm going to go, this was during training, so from there I had to plan dinner and have dinner in the car on my way to the curling facility so I could practice, and then have a snack, and then go to the gym. So it was just kind of the night before going through your head and just making a plan of what you needed to do and what your action is. So I'm not going to spend 10 hours working for Athlete for Animals. I might spend half an hour that day and kind of break up the time that way. Makes sense?
If you could pick any city in the world that would be your perfect site for the Winter Olympics, what would it be?
Anchorage, Alaska. It's a perfect place for the Winter Olympics. They have the mountains. They can just build a brand new curling facility up there. It'd be great.
They have snow.
They have lots of snow.
Who's the competition in curling?
The biggest competition, especially for the United States, is our rivals, Canada. I mean, they're always going to be a contender, medal contender, and so you're always going to bring your game. It's also becoming more European, the Swedes, for sure, and Great Britain. So those are your top 3. Those are the ones that medaled the last 2, or these Olympics and last year Worlds.
So what was the security like over it? Did you ever have any fears? And I'm curious if you witnessed any, I'll call it just the bribery to get things done.
Well, we did experience a little of bribery. I mean, just a little sample was with the pins. And if you have a little gift for security, they were kind of brash towards you. You just hand them a pin or, you know, a smile, and then they'll let you through. As far as security getting into the games, it was pretty tough. I mean, thankfully as athletes we have our credentials, and that pretty much gets us anywhere. But through the Olympic Park, they had guards walking the fence line. They had the ships out in the sea. I'm sure they had something up in the air, and then obviously all the security at each venue and at the gates. It was pretty tough. There was no way anybody was getting in or out without being known, someone knowing that you're there, what you're doing. Your picture you'd scan your pass, your credentials, and your picture would show up. So it wasn't like someone could take your credentials and go somewhere off with you. But I did get out into society a little bit and experience the culture, and we had no issues. Probably against what they told us. I did wear some of USA stuff out and about in the community, and people loved it. They would be coming up and asking questions and trying to practice their English. So there was no question. Like, we felt safe the whole time. My family felt safe. I think they just really try to prepare you for any kind of an event a tragic event, and then be thankful that nothing happened in the end. So.
Did you guys have a specific workout regimen when you were in Sochi, or was it just practice?
Just practice. Once you're there, because you're building up until that event, and then once you're there, you're just kind of maintaining, and you don't want your legs to get tired. It becomes more of a marathon with the games, if you're playing one game in a day, versus sometimes we play 3 games a day. So it's just trying to figure out how not to get tired during that event. And with the states, we're kind of behind with the fitness part of curling, and that's, I think, what they're looking forward to going forward into the next Olympics, is how to manage that a little better.
You showed the video in the beginning. So how does the curling international, whatever U.S. group determine who goes? Like how many curling teams started the process to get there?
That's a good question too. So it starts with anybody in the nation. So you can form a team and go and try out. Then it's narrowed down to the top 4 teams in the country, and by doing that you have to place at nationals top 2 the 2 years prior. So the top 2 teams 2 years ago were automatically into the trials, and then 2 teams last year went into the trials. So we qualified by winning nationals last year and going on to the World Championships, and that's how we came into the Olympic trials. So it's not an all-star team per se, and you play down in your self-form. And then once you're in the trials, it's double round robin, and you play everybody twice, and then a triple knockout for the final. So you play 3 games, best of 3 series. And thankfully we got it done in 2, so we didn't have to go on to that 3 game.
So do you guys plan to go to the next Olympics?
That's good. This team is not going on to the next Olympics. The 45-year-old Annie, she's retiring, and the 2 are on the fence with retirement. So
Plan to?
we'll see. like she said, it's a lot of work. Trying to work full time and manage my house in Richfield and my career, and as well as travel. And the more it becomes more competitive and prominent, and the Olympic Committee is kind of pushing for medals and pushing for more, it's becoming more of a full-time job than anything. We'll see.
So you need to all buy t-shirts.
Yeah, we all need to buy t-shirts, and then yes, for sure.
So are you like a free agent now? So are other curling teams calling you knowing that the team won't go visit together anymore?
Exactly. Yes, I'm a free agent right now, so if you guys want to start a team, I'm looking to start
But only if you're under 50.
yeah, if you're, well, no. I think the oldest that we had was 62 in 2006 for a curler.
And I keep focusing on the money because I guess I was most stunned by this. Can you just, I know you don't want to talk a lot about it, but I just assumed you had sponsors and that, but that's not the case.
No, so it's hard to find sponsorship in in the U.S. because curling isn't so prominent, so people don't see a lot of what can be brought for them. Thankfully now with NBC Sports Network picking up the nationals and picking up other events, that we're able to get the word out, and social media is really helping us. But other than that, I mean, we maybe got 20 grand as help, but 20 grand is a weekend competition. And if we're playing 8 weekend competitions throughout the year to get ready for nationals, that doesn't cover a lot for a four-man team trying to pay for food and travel, hotel costs and that. So it definitely adds up, and I usually spend the summer trying to catch up with that. Dad doesn't like my credit card idea, but no, it's been, thankfully this last couple of years we've had some step up with some sponsors, some great sponsors that came through, but other than that it's definitely a challenge to keep competing and following what I love to do without backing financially, but we're getting there.
Is there any college curling teams? Is it migrating down into more schools?
It is. They have intramurals through the curling communities, and now they have the university games where it's a smaller takeoff of the Olympic Games where there's other sports involved, and you do get to travel and go to these university games and play different countries. So it's great. It's definitely up and coming. There's junior nationals, junior worlds, junior competitions. So they're building up from the ground, from the youth.
Get everyone's questions answered? Great. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Maureen Scallon-Failer, president of the Bloomington Chamber, and I want to thank you all for coming. Jessica, that was phenomenal. Thank you. I hope everyone really enjoyed it. Very different program, but very interesting. Very interesting. I'd like to thank our sponsors. I'd also like to thank our other sponsors, Patrick's Bakery and Bachman's, for having us here today. So let's give all of them a round of applause. I'm also pleased to announce that our next B.E.E.R event will be hosted by Bloomington, and I wanted you to put it all on your calendars. We're gonna do something just a little bit different. It's gonna be on Friday, August 8th, and we're gonna be doing a breakfast, a morning program. Kind of shake it up a little and see how that goes with all 4 chamber members. Sometimes lunch doesn't always work for everyone, so we thought we'd try a breakfast. And I'm not gonna tell you what the program is, I'm gonna keep you all in suspense, but I can guarantee you it will be a phenomenal program. Thank you, Angie, for being our host. Thank you, Richfield Chamber of Commerce. Let's give them a round of applause.